He opened his eyes and saw smoke in the air. His head was spinning and his vision was blurry. He tried to move, but pain shot through his leg. He looked around and saw metal pieces from the ship, broken trees, and strange glowing plants. Everything was silent except for the slow crackling of the fire behind him. His name was Ethan. He was a space pilot from Earth sent on a solo mission to deliver supplies to a distant colony, but a storm in hyperspace pushed his ship off course and threw him into a strange planet. Now he was lying on the ground in a forest that looked like it came from a dream, or maybe a nightmare. The trees were tall and twisted with leaves that changed color slowly from blue to purple to green. Strange birds flew overhead. With crystal wings and glowing eyes, he tried to stand up but fell back down. Something was broken, maybe his leg, maybe his ribs, he could not tell. He dragged himself toward a small hill using broken metal as a crutch. Every step made him gasp, but he had to keep moving. He needed water, shelter, help, anything. He heard a sound from behind and froze. It was not an animal. It was not the wind. It was soft footsteps moving slowly, then stopping, then moving again. He turned quickly but saw nothing, just the shadows between trees moving as if something was watching him. He kept moving faster now, heart pounding, mouth dry, vision spinning. Suddenly, he tripped and rolled down a slope, hitting rocks and branches. When he stopped at the bottom, he could not move anymore. His body gave up and he closed his eyes. He woke up again, but this time inside a hut made of wood and vines. It smelled like flowers and fire. His leg was wrapped with thick, soft leaves and a cool liquid was on his forehead. He was not alone anymore. Around him stood tall women with long limbs, smooth, colorful skin, and strange markings glowing on their arms and faces. Their eyes were big and shining like moons. They were speaking in a strange language, but their voices were soft and curious. One of them stepped closer. She was the tallest, and her eyes were silver. She looked at him and touched his hand, then turned to the others and said something. They all nodded, then smiled. Some of them touched his arm or hair like he was something new, something rare. He tried to speak, but his voice was weak. He only said water, and one of them quickly brought him a bowl made of some carved fruit. He drank and felt life returning slowly. He wanted to ask where he was, who they were, why they were helping him, but he could not find the words. Everything felt too strange, too new. The tall woman spoke again, this time in broken English. She said, "You are from sky, you fell from fire, we found you, we help you, you are only one here." Ethan tried to understand her meaning. He looked at them more carefully and noticed one strange thing. They were all women, no men, not even young boys. He pointed around and asked, "Where are others? Where are men?" The tall woman smiled a little and said, "No men, only US for many cycles," then touched his chest and said, "You different, you man." Some of them laughed softly, others whispered to each other. They looked at him not with fear or hate, but with deep interest. Some stepped closer, some backed away, all eyes on him. They helped him sit up and gave him food that looked like glowing berries and soft bread made from golden seeds. It tasted sweet and strange, but gave him energy. He looked at the tall woman again and asked, "Your name?" She pointed to herself and said Zara, then pointed to him and asked, "Your name?" He said, "Ethan," and she tried to say it but laughed and said, "Ethan, strange name." More women entered the hut, some young, some older, all curious. Some smiled, some blushed. One even brought him flowers and placed them beside his head. That night they gave him a warm place to sleep inside the hut with soft furs and hanging lights made from glowing stones. Outside he heard music, drums, and singing. He sat up slowly and looked through the small window. The women were dancing around a fire, their bodies moving like water, their eyes shining in the night. One of them turned and looked at him, then smiled and waved. He waved back, unsure what to think, unsure what to feel. Everything was moving fast, too fast. He felt something he had not felt in years, not since leaving Earth, not since the war, not since losing his family. He felt like maybe, just maybe, he had found something new, something strange, something worth staying foreign. Then he heard them again outside. The hut, soft voices whispering quietly, arguing gently. One of them said, "No, I saw him first." Another said, "He looked at me." Third said, "Tomorrow I will give him my beads." He listened with wide eyes, not sure if he should be afraid or amazed. The fire outside burned bright. The stars above shimmered, and inside the hut the human man from Earth closed his eyes once more with a strange feeling in his chest. Ethan opened his eyes again, and the light inside the hut was soft and golden. The smell of fresh fruit and burning wood filled the air. His legs still hurt, but the pain was less. Now he sat up slowly and saw Zara sitting beside him. her eyes watching him like the stars above their heads. She said, "You sleep long time, we wait for you now, eat," and she handed him a plate of round blue fruits and long soft roots. They tasted like sugar and honey and something else he could not name. He tried to ask more questions, but her words were still slow and broken. He pointed outside and said, "Many girls, no boys." Wizara looked at him and then at the entrance of the hut, then back at him again, her voice lower. Now she said, "Long time ago. Men went far, never came back now. Only women." He blinked, trying to understand all this. A whole tribe of only women, no men at all. For how long, he asked, but she did not answer. She only looked at his face with a curious smile. Outside the hut he heard laughter and soft footsteps. The girls were gathering again, more of them than before. They were bringing gifts in their hands. Small shining stones, colored feathers, and necklaces made of glass like crystal. Zara stood up and pulled back the curtain of the hut. She said, "Come walk, see, meet tribe." Ethan followed her slowly, leaning on a stick they gave him for balance. The sun above was large and red. The sky had two moons, one small, one big, both glowing in daylight. As they walked through the village, the women stopped and stared. Some smiled, some waved, some whispered and giggled behind their hands. Ethan felt like an animal in a zoo, but not in a bad way. It was something different, maybe even welcoming. The village was full of life, wooden homes, hanging bridges, lights made from plants and flowers that glowed. The women were strong, graceful, and wore clothes made of soft leaves and silk from glowing forms. They moved like dancers and looked at him like he was a lost treasure. Zara led him to a large circle in the center of the village. A fire burned in the middle, and around it sat many women, all with beads on their arms and long braids in their hair. One of them stood up, her hair white, her face kind. She said words in their language. Zara turned to Ethan and said, "She is Myra, she is elder. She say, 'Welcome man from sky.'" Ethan nodded and said, "Thank you, I am Ethan," and pointed to himself. They repeated his name like a song, "Ethan, Ethan, Ethan." Ethan, laughing and clapping their hands like children. Myra stepped forward and gave him a necklace made from silver shells. She placed it around his neck and touched his heart. Then she turned and said something to the tribe, and they all began to cheer. Zara whispered, "She say your gift now, you stay." Ethan felt his head spin again. Gift, what did that mean, stay? Why did they want him to stay later? They took him to a bigger hut with soft beds and warm food. More women came inside one by one, each with something for him, a painting, a fruit, a story in their language. He did not understand it all, but he saw their eyes, their hands, the way they looked at him like he was something precious. One girl sat beside him, her skin greenish gold, her hair long and tied with red thread. She said, "My name is Luma. I like your eyes." Then she ran away, laughing with her hands on her face. Another came and asked, "Do you know how to sing?" And when he said a little, she asked, "Sing now, please," and sat close with wide eyes. The day passed like a dream, every moment filled with smiles, touches, songs, and new faces. Ethan felt warm and confused and tired, but something inside him was waking up, something that felt important. As night came, the women began to gather near the big fire again. Zara came and said, "Tonight is dance night, you watch with me." He sat beside her on soft rugs, while the tribe danced around the flames. Their bodies moved with grace and joy, their faces full of life, their laughter echoing through the trees. Zara leaned close and whispered, "We happy. You hear no man come for many, many cycles. Now all want talk to you, all want be near you. They wait for returns." Ethan looked at her and felt his heart race a little. He said, "Why me? I'm nobody's." Zara touched his hand and said, "No, you are first. You are different. You are hope." Behind them, girls whispered again, their voices full of excitement. Some saying, "I will bring him tea tomorrow." Others saying, "I will teach him our songs." Ethan looked up at the stars and felt like he had fallen into another world, a strange world, a beautiful world, a world where he was not just alive, but seeing. He wondered what tomorrow would bring, and if every woman in this tribe truly wanted her own turn with the man who fell from the stars. The morning sun rose high over the glowing trees as Ethan stepped outside the hut, his body still sore, but stronger than yesterday. The air smelled like sweet fruit and fresh rain, and the ground was warm beneath his bare feet. Zara stood waiting near the central circle, her arms crossed, her expression serious but kind. Today she wore a crown of white feathers, and her long braid was tied with silver rope. She said, "Today's trial day. Today you show strength. Today you show heart." Ethan blinked, unsure of what she meant. He asked, "Trial? What kind of trial?" Zara looked at him and said, "Trial of Becoming you want stay, you want live with us, you must prove yourself. Behind her the women were gathering again, whispering, laughing, pointing at him. With wide eyes, each one dressed for ceremony, their faces painted with bright colors and their clothes wrapped with beads and feathers. Ethan nodded slowly, his heart beating faster. He had no idea what to expect, but he knew he had to try. He could not run from this challenge, not when these people had saved him, not when this tribe had become his only home. Zara led him to a circle made from stones and leaves. Tall poles stood around it, each carved with symbols of animals, trees, and stars. The women began to sing a soft rhythm as a drum beat started from somewhere deep within the forest. The first challenge began. Zara pointed to a tree with thick thorns and long vines hanging from the top. She said, "Climb, take the red fruit, bring it down. Do not touch the ground again until you eat it." Ethan looked up at the tree, his palms already sweating. The thorns looked sharp and the vines twisted like snakes, but he took a deep breath and jumped, grabbing the lowest branch and pulling himself up. The women watched in silence, their eyes fixed on every move he made. He climbed, slowly bleeding from small cuts on his arms, but he kept going, reaching higher and higher until he saw the red fruit glowing at the top like a small sun. He plucked it and placed it in his mouth, chewing quickly. The taste was bitter and sweet, and then he jumped, grabbing the vines, swinging across the trees until he landed on soft moss. The women clapped and cheered, and Zara nodded with pride. The second challenge was different. They brought him to a wide open space where a strange creature stood waiting. Its body was thick with fur and its horns curved backward like a ram. It looked at Ethan and stomped the ground, snorting with heat. Zara said, "Tree beast must bow. If you stay, you must show power. Do not run, do not fight, control it." Ethan looked at the beast, then at the women, then back at the beast again. He had no weapons, no shield, only his hands and his mind. He walked slowly toward the creature, his arms open, his voice calm. He spoke in whispers, told the beast he meant no harm, told it he was lost, told it he was strong but not cruel. The beast snorted again, but then lowered its head slowly, very slowly. Ethan reached out and placed a hand on its nose. The women gasped. The creature closed its eyes and let out a soft breath, and then turned away, walking back into the forest. The crowd erupted into cheers, louder than before, some girls jumping, others running toward him with flowers and colored cloths. Zara raised her hand, and they all stopped. One last challenge, she said, the hardest one. Solve the riddle of the ancients. Find the key of flame. Speak the word of peace, or the forest will never call you one of us. They took him to an old stone hidden behind tall grass. It was shaped like a door, but with no handle, symbols carved into it in strange lines, glowing red under the light of the sun. Zara handed him a scroll with the riddle written in their language and some in broken English. It said, "I burn but do not die. I eat but am never full. I move but have no legs. I dance but have no soul. What am?" Ethan read the words again and again, thinking about each line, his eyes moving across the stone, his hands touching the warm surface. Suddenly, he looked down at his own hands, his scars from fire, his past from earth, and he whispered the answer. Fire. The stone rumbled slowly. A crack opened down the middle, and inside was a small crystal glowing orange like flame. He picked it up and held it high, and the women cheered louder than ever before, their voices rising like a song, their hands reaching out toward him. Zara stepped forward and placed her hand on his shoulder. She said, "You passed all. You are now of the tribe. You are one with us. Now many will come to know you more. Some may choose you. You may choose them." Ethan stood still in the middle of the circle, surrounded by faces full of hope and joy, his heart beating faster than ever before. He looked at Zara, then at Luma, then at Myra, then at all the women smiling at him, and he knew the real test was just beginning. The sky turned purple as night came. The forest whispered with wind, and the air filled with the soft sound of drums echoing through the trees. Ethan stood near the great fire, dressed in tribal cloth made by Luma herself, his chest bare, painted with symbols of courage, and his arms wrapped in vines of light. Zara approached from the shadows, her hair shining with silver dust, her eyes glowing under the moon. She said, "Tonight is moonfire tonight. Tribe shows spirit tonight. You will see our soul." The flames rose higher, the drums grew louder, and the women gathered in a wide circle, each carrying something different: flowers, stones, feathers, bowls of glowing water. All of them moved with grace and pride, their eyes locked on Ethan. Zara raised her arms, and the crowd went silent. She said to the tribe, "We waited long for this night." He passed the trials. He walks like one of us, but tonight we ask the forest to bless him. We ask the flame to speak. A low chant began, slow and soft, then faster like a heartbeat. The women danced around the fire, their bodies bending, their feet moving in rhythm, their voices mixing into a song Ethan had never heard before. Yet it felt familiar, like something from his dreams or past lives. Luma stepped forward, holding a burning leaf. It crackled with blue flame. She danced toward Ethan and placed the leaf near his chest. The fire touched him, but did not burn. It wrapped around him like a coat of light and vanished into his skin. He gasped but felt no pain, only warmth and energy, and something deep inside his heart began to open like a door unlocking itself. The other women followed one by one. They danced close to him, touched his shoulders, his hands, his face, each whispering a word in their language. Some laughed, some cried, some sang his name over and over until it sounded like magic. Ethan felt dizzy, but not weak. He felt like he was floating, the fire spitting, the sky moving, the stars blinking with each step of the dance. Then he reached out and touched Luma's hand. Her eyes widened and a spark flew between their fingers, a spark that leapt into the flames. The fire changed color from red to gold to green to violet, and then it roared upward in a pillar of light. Everyone stopped. The wind froze, the drums fell silent, and the sky cracked open. A bolt of light shot from the moon down into the fire and then into the ground. The earth shook, the trees groaned, and the great stone near the elder hut split open, revealing stairs covered in moss and old symbols. Zara looked at Ethan, her voice low and shaking. She said, "This was not part of the moonfire. This is old magic. This is forest memory. It only wakes for a soul marked by stars." Ethan stepped back, afraid, confused. The crowd murmured. Some stepped away, others moved closer, their faces full of wonder and fear. From the broken stone rose a woman, her skin pale, her clothes made of bone and ash, her eyes dark as night. She said in the old tongue, "I return for what was taken. I return for the flamme." Zara stepped forward, holding a staff made of blackwood. She said, "You were banished, Vela. You broke the sacred vow. You cannot come back." The woman smiled, but it was not kind. She said, "Your tribe chose a stranger over blood. They forgot my power. They forgot my name. Now I will remind them." Ethan looked at Zara, then at Vela, then at the tribe behind him. He said, "Who is she?" Zara said, "She was one of us once. Strong, wise, brave, but she wanted to rule alone. She wanted no sisters, only servants. She wanted all and gave nothing." Vela pointed at Ethan and said, "Now you bring a man into the sacred circle, a man who knows nothing of our pain, nothing of our loss. He is a weakness. He will destroy you." Zara stood tall, her voice clear. She said, "He is not weakness. He is change. He is the answer to the silence that cursed us." Vela laughed and raised her hand, and fire swirled around her, a fire not warm, not pure, but sharp and broken and angry. She said, "Then let him fight for his place. Let him face the trial of the lost. If he wins, I leave. If he fails, he belongs to me." Ethan stepped forward, his heart pounding, his mind racing. He said, "I will not fight with blades. I will not fight with rage. If you want my place, you take it from my story. You take it from my soul." The tribe gasped. Vela's smile faded and the flames around her flickered. The old rules allowed this, the trial of words, the trial of hearts. Zara nodded, her voice soft. She said, "Tomorrow at dawn, the trial begins. Tonight we pray to the flame. We ask the forest to watch." Ethan stood still as the fire burned again, brighter than ever. Before the tribe began to sing once more, and he knew the real dance had just begun. The fire behind Vela burned high like a serpent made of smoke and rage. Her eyes locked on Ethan as the tribe watched in silence. Zara held her ground, her staff glowing faint blue, while the other women stood behind her, unsure, afraid, confused, their faith trembling under the weight of Vela's return. Ethan felt the heat rising, the ground trembling under his feet, but he did not move. He looked at Vela and spoke with a calm voice. He asked, "Why are you here? What do you want from me?" Vela's voice was like thunder wrapped in silk. She said, "You walked into our forest. You broke the balance, you woke the ancient flame, and now they follow you like sheep to a storm. I want what was mine before you came. I want my place. I want the tribe." Zara stepped forward, her voice strong but gentle. She said, "Your place was lost the day you turned your power against your sisters. The day you chose control over unity. The forest rejected you, and so did we." Vela looked at her and then at the others, her eyes scanning each face. Some of the younger women looked down, unsure, their hands shaking. The elders held tight to their beads, whispering words of protection, but even they looked unsure. Ethan saw the fear and the cracks in their unity, and he felt Something inside stir, something strong, something human. He walked slowly between the two women, raised his hands, and said then, "Let me speak, let me." "Choose another way." Zara and Vela looked at him, both surprised. The crowd murmured again, some shouted no, some said listen, some held their breath. Ethan said, "I will not fight with fists, I will not burn this forest with fire. I offer a trial of words of truth, of wisdom. Let the tribe decide, not by fear or flame, but by the voice of peace." Vela narrowed her eyes, her power flaring like dark light. She said, "Words are weak like bones in fire. They break, they burn, they vanish." Ethan looked at her without blinking and said then, "Let me try, and if my words fail, you can have your battle, but if they stand, you leave forever." The tribe waited, the wind quiet, the forest still. Even the stars above seemed to pause for his voice. He turned to the circle, looked at every face, young and old, kind and cold, strong and scared. He said, "I came from a world broken by war, by hunger, by silence. We lost what mattered. We forgot how to listen. We forgot how to feel. We built machines, but lost meaning." He pointed to the fire and said, "This flame, you dance around every moon. This fire is not just heat or light. It is memory. It is promise. It is hope. I saw your songs. I saw your courage. I saw your care." He looked at the youngest girl, her eyes wide, her hands clutching a small glowing rock. He said, "You want stories, not orders. You want love, not fear." He looked at an elder, her face lined, her back bent, but her eyes bright. He said, "You carried this tribe through years of rain and sun, not with blades, but with words, with dreams, with hands." He turned to Vela and said, "You came with fire and pain, but pain alone is not power. Fire alone is not home." The women were silent, some with tears, some with smiles, some with open mouths. Zara stepped forward and said, "He speaks the truth of hearts, not just minds. He brings change, not chains. He brings a path, not a prison." Vela's face twisted, her hands burning, her eyes wild, but something in her gaze flickered. Her power cracked just for a moment. One girl stepped forward and said, "I choose peace." Then another and another and another, until the whole tribe stood behind Ethan. With flowers and hands raised, Vela screamed and raised her arms. The ground opened, the fire flared, but the forest did not answer her call. The spirits did not rise, the earth did not obey. Zara walked to her and touched her chest softly. She said, "It is over. Your time has passed." Vela looked at the sky as the moons moved behind the clouds. Her voice broke as she said, "I was once the heart, now I am only shadow." And then she turned and vanished into the woods without a sound. The tribe let out a long breath. Some cheered, some hugged, some fell to the ground crying with joy. Ethan stood still, his heart full, his body shaking, not from fear, but from feeling. Zara touched his hand and said, "You spoke like a river, strong, calm, deep. You are not just guest, you are voice, you are guide." The drums began again, soft and slow. The women danced, not for fear, not for war, but for future, for something new, for a tribe reborn under two moons and one human heart. The morning after the fire, the tribe gathered in the great clearing, their faces calm, their hands joined in a circle of trust. The air smelled of wet leaves and fresh bread, and the sky above was a soft pink filled with drifting clouds shaped like birds in flight. Ethan stood beside Zara, his body wrapped in a new robe made from golden silk, his chest still painted with the symbol of flame, the one that appeared during the moonfire, the one that no one had painted with a brush, the one that simply appeared as if the forest itself had marked him as its own. Zara raised her hand and the women grew quiet. She said, "The trial is complete, the forest has spoken, the tribe has chosen, and today we begin a new path." Myra stepped forward, her steps slow, but full of meaning, her old eyes shining with tears. She carried a bowl filled with glowing seeds and placed it at Ethan's feet. She said in the voice of the old tongue, "He is seed and soil, he is sky and root. Let him grow with us and grow through us." The tribe clapped their hands once, then knelt around him, not in worship, not in fear, but in deep respect, as one kneels before a river, not to own it, but to understand it. Ethan felt his throat tighten as he looked around these women, once strangers, now sisters, now guides, now guardians, and maybe something more. He took a deep breath and said, "I am not here to lead, I am not here to rule, I am here to learn and build with youth." Tribe nodded, some smiling, some crying, some still in awe of how one voice turned fire into peace. The days that followed were filled with change. Every morning Ethan walked with different women, each showing him something new. One morning Luma taught him how to weave leaves into shelter, their hands brushing, their laughs echoing in the trees. One afternoon Zara took him to the edge of the forest, where the stones spoke if you pressed your ear close enough, and she whispered stories of the stars and the ones who came before he learned their songs, their stories, their silence. He learned how to walk without sound, how to listen without interrupting, how to speak with rhythm, not just reason. At night the women gathered under the sky and asked Ethan to tell stories of earth, of oceans, of mountains, of machines that could fly higher than birds, and of cities that touched the clouds. And some stories made them laugh and others made them cry, but all made them listen. One girl, young with green eyes, named Elu, sat by his side each night and asked him questions. Endless questions about the stars, about dreams, about why humans closed their eyes when they kissed, and when Ethan answered, she would giggle, then run to the others and repeat everything word for word, her joy spreading like sunlight through the village. One day Myra came to Ethan holding a scroll. She said, "We are ready for the circle of minds. We are ready to give you a voice in the council." Ethan blinked, unsure what that meant. Zara explained, the council meets under the spirit tree each full moon to choose, to change, to remember, and now you will sit with us, not as outsider, not as guest, but as one of the roots. When the night of the council came, the spirit tree glowed with soft light, its branches thick, its leaves humming with quiet sound. Ethan sat between Zara and Myra, across from the warriors, the healers, the singers, each with beads that showed their role, their history, their promise. They spoke of harvests and storms, of trade with other tribes far beyond the mountains, of names for the children born since the last moon, of paths to protect and bridges to build. And when Ethan spoke, the circle leaned in, his voice not louder than theirs, but different, shaped by loss, shaped by hope, shaped by something they had never heard and always needed. Zara turned to him once and whispered, "You are not changing us, you are reminding us who we were before silence, before sorrow, before fear." On when the council ended and the tree stopped glowing, the tribe rose as one and walked hand in hand back to the village, not as many voices, but as one song. Later that night, Luma sat beside Ethan under the stars, her head resting on his shoulder. She said, "We waited for something to come from sky, and we thought it would be fire or storm or God, but it was just you." Ethan smiled and said, "Maybe that was enough." She looked at him and said, "Maybe it was more than enough." The forest breathed around them, the stars watched in silence, and the tribe slept in peace for the first time in many cycles, not because they were safe, but because they believed again. The sun rose slowly over the treetops, casting long golden rays across the village. The sound of morning drums echoed gently through the forest, and the smell of roasted fruits and sweet root stew filled the air as the tribe prepared for the ceremony that would mark the beginning of a new season and a new chapter. Ethan stood by the river, washing his hands in the cold water, his reflection rippling beneath the surface. He looked different now, his face calmer, his eyes brighter, his arms marked with the patterns of the tribe, each symbol earned through trials of strength of mind and of heart. Behind him, Luma approached, holding a bundle of woven leaves and cloth tied with a blue ribbon. She said, "This is for your home, for the walls and the door, in the place where you dream." He turned and smiled, taking the bundle gently, their fingers brushing. She looked into his eyes and said, "Today is the day the spirits will see you, not as visitor, but as seed planted together." They walked back toward the heart of the village, where a new structure stood, half finished, the walls made from carved wood and vines, the roof still open to the sky. This was his home, a gift from the tribe, built by many hands, shaped by many hearts. As he reached the center, the drum stopped, and Zara stepped forward, her robe flowing behind her, her hair crowned with feathers and shells. She held a staff in her hand and raised it high. Her voice rang out like wind over the lake. She said, "Today we give a name to what was nameless. Today we honor the one who came from the sky and stayed, not as stranger, but as soul among us." The tribe surrounded him in a wide circle, each woman holding a branch, a stone, a flower, something from her own hands to offer, not to a god, not to a king, but to a man who gave them stories, who listened, who healed, who stayed. Myra, the elder, stepped forward, carrying a bowl of glowing dust. She said, "Long ago we feared silence, long ago we feared change, but today we walk into it without chains, without fear, because he reminded us that new is not loss, that different is not danger." She dipped her fingers into the dust and touched Ethan's forehead, the light spreading across his face like sunlight through leaves. The tribe sang softly, a song of roots, of sky, of breath, and of time. Ethan felt his chest grow warm, his eyes blur with tears not from sadness but from something deeper, from knowing he had found something. Most people search for their entire lives and never touch. He looked at the women around him, at Luma, at Zara, at Elu, at the warriors and the weavers and the singers, each one different, each one powerful and beautiful and free. And he said, "Thank you," not as a word, but as a promise. After the song, the tribe helped him finish the home, tying the final knots, planting flowers by the entrance, hanging glowing stones from the ceiling, each woman leaving something behind, a mark, a message, a memory. When night came, the fire was lit, and the stars returned in full glory. The moon's bright and full above them. Ethan sat with the council again, this time not just as voice but as bridge between old and new, between earth and forest, between sky and soil. They spoke of journeys beyond the valley, of learning new languages, of writing down their histories so no story would ever be forgotten again. Ethan offered to help create symbols, to share their wisdom with other tribes, to build paths of words as strong as roots. Beneath the ground, Elu brought him a scroll. She had made herself drawings of the tree beast, of the moonfire, of the trial of words, and Ethan promised he would add to it every season, every moon, so the future would remember. As the fire burned low, Luma took his hand and said, "You have many sisters here. Now many voices, many turns, but I want more than turn, I want forever." He looked at her, heart full, and said then, "Stay by my side, and we will write forever together." She leaned into him, and the stars blinked as if they saw and smiled. The forest sang softly in the breeze, the leaves danced, the river hummed, and the tribe rested in peace. Ethan stood at the edge of the village as the first light of the next day touched the sky behind him. A world reborn ahead of him, a future unknown, and beside him a family that chose him, not because of his strength or his stories or his past, but because he became one of them. And as the birds rose into the sky and the trees whispered his name, he knew this was no longer just a strange land, no longer just a tribe, no longer just survival.